Chosen one, have you ever felt a stirring deep within your soul? A whisper so quiet yet so undeniable, telling you that something extraordinary is just around the corner. Despite the struggles, the waiting, the endless challenges, you've carried a spark that refuses to go out. That's not by accident. If you're here right now watching this, it's because God guided you here for a reason. You are His chosen one. And now, something miraculous is beginning to unfold in your life. The very dreams you've hidden in your heart, the prayers you whispered when no one else was listening, are about to manifest in ways you could never imagine. But before they arrive, God is asking you to pause, to rest, to trust, because His divine plan is already aligning every piece of your life for a season of abundance, breakthrough, and unshakable joy. This is not just another message. It's a holy invitation. An invitation to step fully into the promise written over your life long before you were born. So take a deep breath and let this truth sink in. Your wish is coming, and it's coming with the power of God's eternal promise. But chosen one, there's a response required. If you feel this word resonating in your spirit, don't hesitate. Right now, hit that like button to release this energy into the world. Subscribe to join thousands of chosen souls walking this same path of faith. And type the number 77 in the comments, a seal of divine completion, to declare that you are ready to receive. By doing this, you're not just engaging with a video. You are making a prophetic declaration, joining a community of faith, and signaling to heaven that you are prepared for God's supernatural favor. Stay with me until the very end, because this truth is meant for you, and it will not just inspire you, it will transform your life. Rest while you can, chosen one, for your wish is coming, and it is coming swiftly. Number 1, the whisper before dawn. You have felt it, haven't you? The sudden awakenings in the middle of the night, the strange impressions upon your spirit just before the break of day. They wanted you to dismiss those whispers as random dreams, but they are not. They are the faint echoes of your eternal script surfacing before the world wakes up. In Job 33 verse 14 it is written, "For God does speak, now one way, now another, though no one perceives it." The chosen ones are not ordinary sleepers. They are the keepers of divine restlessness. They mocked your sleepless nights. They said you were restless because of worry, but heaven was writing reminders into your consciousness. Those who carry this calling are rarely permitted peace until the message is received. Comment, "I seal this word in light," if you know these early whispers have been haunting and guiding you. Because in truth, the morning speaks first to the chosen, and then to the rest of the world. And what comes next will prove why those whispers could never be silenced. There are moments when silence speaks louder than sound, and you know them well. You have woken in the stillness of night, your heart racing though no threat was near, your mind flooded with images you could not explain, a name whispered in the dark, a dream too vivid to dismiss, a sudden clarity before the sun touched the horizon. These were not accidents. They were reminders seeded into your spirit long before you had language to hold them. They waited for the hours when the world was quiet, when distractions had gone to sleep, to rise within you. This was not madness or imagination. It was memory being stirred. And now, in this moment, you are beginning to realize that the whispers were not random. They were recognition. You remember being different, don't you? Sitting among others, yet feeling the weight of a question no one else seemed to hear. Why did joy feel heavier in your chest? And why did sorrow cut deeper into your bones? They laughed easily while you sensed shadows behind their smiles. They embraced illusions while your eyes scanned for what lay beyond the surface. You thought it was weakness, this sensitivity, this constant ache of perception, but it was never weakness. It was the first sign that heaven marked you as one who could not be fooled by noise, one whose silence was already listening to a higher frequency. Looking back, can you see it now? The moments that broke you, the seasons that seemed wasted, the endless waiting rooms of life. None of it was without design. They were bricks laid on a road you could not yet name. You were not wandering, you were being led. Psalm 139 verse 16 declares, "All the days ordained for me were written in your book before one of them came to be." Every closed door, every detour, every lonely hour was ink from that book, carving a story of consecration. What you thought was chaos was architecture, unseen yet unshakable. Even in the smallest details, the signals have always been near. That déjà vu that made your skin shiver was not a glitch. It was eternity brushing against your present. The dream that repeated itself was not imagination. It was instruction. The sudden chills, the moments when you felt watched though no one was there, the way your spirit rose at certain words or numbers, all of them were the handwriting of the unseen. The chosen are trained through whispers, not shouts. Signs rarely come as explosions. They come as a nudge, a whisper, a pattern too persistent to ignore. And once you notice, you cannot go back to pretending not to see. Your intuition has been the compass they tried to make you doubt. How many times did you feel a warning in your chest before betrayal struck? How many times did you sense an exit before disaster arrived? You thought you were paranoid, but it was prophecy. Your silence was not emptiness, it was listening. And though they mocked you for trusting instincts you could not explain, those instincts were the shield that preserved your soul. You were not imagining it. Chosen one, you were aligning with what was always speaking, even when others called you foolish. The deeper truth is that awakening is not invention, but remembrance. You are not becoming someone new. You are becoming what you always were beneath the dust of distraction, like a sealed scroll slowly unrolling. Your identity is not changing, it is being revealed. You were never ordinary. Though the world tried to convince you otherwise, beneath the noise of culture, beneath the masks you wore to survive, there was always an archetype waiting to awaken. That identity has nothing to prove and nothing to fear, because it existed before the opinions of others. You are not arriving at yourself. You are returning. And now, the time has come for the first activation. Sensitivity is no longer a burden but a gift. The wounds they mocked are becoming wisdom. The hunger you felt for meaning, the longing that never went away, is the evidence that you carry a destiny too large to be silenced. You don't have to apologize for seeing deeper, feeling sharper, or hearing whispers in the stillness. You don't have to shrink for their comfort. Your very being is an altar where silence has been consecrated into fire. This is the hour when the crown begins to form from the quiet. Chosen one, your arrival here is no accident. The whispers you thought were fragments were preparation for this unveiling. You were guided, preserved, hidden, until the time appointed. Comment, "I carry the silence as crown," if you feel this truth awakening inside you. Share the dream, the scar, or the moment when silence became revelation for you. For this is not coincidence, it is confirmation. And from here, the whispers will give way to fire, the kind they will never be able to put out. Number 2, patterns that speak. They told you numbers repeating on clocks were meaningless. They mocked you when you paused after hearing the same phrase more than once in a single day. They dismissed synchronicity as coincidence. But what they did not want you to know is that these patterns are the handwriting of heaven. Psalm 19 verse 1 declares, "The heavens declare the glory of God. The skies proclaim the work of his hands." Even creation itself speaks in repeating patterns to those who are chosen. You were never crazy for noticing. They simply could not decode the signals because the script was not written for them. You were meant to see 11:11, to notice the recurring dream, to feel the pull when symbols crossed your path twice in one day. These are not accidents. They are confirmations. Comment, I walk crowned by eternal flame, if you've been marked by these repeating signs. And prepare, because the next revelation will show why others react so violently to the script written upon your soul. It begins quietly, almost too subtly to notice, like a whisper etched into ordinary days. A glance at the clock shows the same sequence of numbers again, and something deep inside stirs though logic tells you to dismiss it. A phrase repeats itself through different voices, and you wonder if the world is speaking to you in secret. A dream comes twice, and the second time you wake with the same image burning into your mind. These moments were never random, though they wanted you to believe they were. They conditioned you to think coincidence was the only explanation, but your soul always knew better. The patterns were not accidents. They were revelations cloaked in rhythm. Still, the emotional weight of noticing what others ignored was heavy. You questioned yourself, wondering if sensitivity was a flaw, if awareness was madness, if you were the only one seeing through cracks in the ordinary. They called you obsessive, paranoid, or too deep, and their laughter carried the sting of isolation. You tried to silence your noticing, to bury the meanings that shouted softly in repetition, but silence never lasted. The patterns pursued you like shadows, refusing to let you rest. Shame and self-doubt became their weapon, making you wonder if your eyes betrayed you. Yet even in those moments, the repetition grew louder, reminding you that what they mocked was the very proof of your calling. What if I told you those patterns were the architecture of your path? Psalm 19 verse 1 declares, "The heavens declare the glory of God. The skies proclaim the work of his hands." The same order that holds stars in place holds meaning in the signs you've always seen. The repetition was not coincidence, but covenant. The universe keeping record of promises you forgot, but heaven never did. Your life has never been random. It has been encoded with reminders of destiny waiting to be recalled. Just as Israel wandered 40 years in the wilderness, you walked in circles until you learned the pattern that would break the cycle. Every delay, every repetition, every déjà vu was not empty. It was an assignment disguised as monotony. Think back to the moments that seemed too strange to dismiss. The job that almost opened but closed at the last moment, only to repeat itself years later in a different form. The friendship that ended suddenly, yet the same kind of betrayal resurfaced again, as if you were being taught to recognize it faster. The seasons of exhaustion where every door shut, and then the sudden openings that came in clusters, as if on a divine schedule. Do you see it now? The patterns have always been a language written into your timeline. Like a hidden ink, they reveal themselves only to those chosen to notice. And you, chosen one, have always been marked by this sight. Spiritual resistance often hides within these very repetitions. What felt like bad luck was interference meant to cloud your discernment. What seemed like closed doors were actually hands trying to smudge the handwriting of heaven before you could read it. Imagine fog settling on a road you were meant to walk. The path never disappeared, but the clarity was stolen. Still, the numbers kept appearing. The dreams kept repeating. The signs kept knocking, because what is written cannot be erased. Energies, systems, and unseen watchers tried to distort the pattern, but distortion only works on the blind. You were never blind. You were awakening, and yet your reaction to all of this was deeply human. Sometimes you doubted yourself, so much you played small, shrinking your sight to match their blindness. Other times you people-pleased, downplaying the weight of what you felt, because you didn't want to be mocked. In secret, you rebelled, refusing to conform, but also carrying the fear of being misunderstood forever. You questioned if your life would always be a strange puzzle no one else could solve. You tried to bury your hunger for meaning under busyness, but hunger always returned. Your silence became both a shield and a prison. Holding wisdom you longed to release but feared to speak. But here is the truth. The resistance was never proof of failure. It was proof of fire. You were targeted because you were marked, opposed because you were destined to recognize what others could not. Every closed door, every skeptical voice, every mocking laugh confirmed the threat you posed to illusions. What they wanted you to call coincidence was the very signature of your anointing. The repeating signs were not torment, they were treasure. The patterns were not curses, they were confirmation. And now, chosen one, it is time to claim what was always yours. You were opposed because you are powerful. The more they tried to dismiss your noticing, the sharper your sight became. The more they tried to mock your hunger for meaning, the deeper your discernment grew. You are not burdened by patterns. You are crowned by them. You are not haunted by repetitions. You are guided by them. Comment, I move guarded by divine fire. If you know the signs have been whispering to you all along, because chosen one, the patterns were never random. They were the prophecy pulling you toward the next unveiling. Number 3, living as a mirror. They hated you before they even knew your name. They felt your presence and grew uneasy without reason. They tried to project their shadows on you because your existence reflects what they hide. This is the truth of chosen ones. Your soul is a mirror, and when others look into it, they see their own emptiness. John 3 verse 20 tells us, everyone who does evil hates the light and will not come into the light for fear that their deeds will be exposed. You didn't even need to speak for them to despise you. The way you walked, the way you held silence, the way your eyes lingered, all of it made them tremble. They feared you because they saw themselves and what they could never become. Comment, I rise marked by the divine. If you've felt this strange hatred for no reason, and share one moment or memory where someone's reaction revealed their fear of your light, because what comes next will unveil the deepest secret. The veil itself was never to blind you, it was to blind them. There comes a moment when the air itself seems to shift, and suddenly what was hidden begins to shimmer with clarity. You look back on conversations, glances, and silences, and patterns that once confused you now rise like unveiled truth. A memory that seemed insignificant years ago suddenly explains the hostility you faced without cause. It was never your mistakes, never your flaws, but something deeper your presence stirred in them. Their unease was the echo of recognition, even if they could not name it. They looked at you, and in that look, their own masks began to crack. What once felt like rejection now reveals itself as proof of your mirror-like power. The more you stepped into rooms, the more you noticed an invisible weight follow. People shifted, grew uncomfortable, or spoke words that contradicted their own behavior. They laughed too loudly, explained too much, or avoided your eyes as though they carried secrets you had not asked to see. You wondered why stillness made them anxious, and why your silence created storms. The truth is that your presence exposed what was buried in them, and exposure terrifies those who live by shadows. They projected blame onto you because your light demanded they confront their own darkness. You never volunteered to be a mirror, but heaven marked you as one. Numbers and symbols in creation whisper messages, but so do reactions of those around you. Just as a lake reflects the sky, your soul reflected the truths others tried to suppress. Their anger was not truly toward you, but toward the image of themselves they could not avoid when standing near you. You became their hidden scripture, a scroll they did not want to read. John 3 verse 20 reminds us, everyone who does evil hates the light and will not come into the light for fear that their deeds will be exposed. That is why people recoiled from you before you even spoke. Their fear was not of you, it was of what you revealed. Think of the sudden betrayals that made no sense, the hostility from strangers you had never harmed, the jealousy that appeared without cause. These were not accidents of character, but patterns of reflection. Your soul acted like a mirror polished by divine fire, and every gaze into it showed them what they wanted to deny. Their rejection of you was their rejection of truth. Even family members struggled, not because you wronged them, but because your presence disrupted their illusions. You may have asked yourself endlessly, "What did I do wrong?" But in reality, your existence answered questions they never wanted asked. As awakening deepens, you begin to see that mirrors do not choose what they reveal. They simply reflect. Your stillness became their chaos. Your integrity became their exposure. Your resilience became their shame. Without intending to, you revealed duplicity in leaders, envy in friends, fear in lovers. That is why the cost of your path has always included misunderstanding. People could not separate who you were from what they saw of themselves through you. Like ancient prophets, you carried a mirror that burned without flame. It was not judgment you bore, but reflection. And that reflection carried power. But notice this. Their reactions, however painful, were confirmations of your assignment. If you had been ordinary, no one would have felt threatened. If you had been neutral, no one would have reacted so violently. Resistance proves reflection, for only a true mirror unsettles what is false. The hatred that appeared unprovoked was a declaration of your authenticity. Their whispers behind your back were admissions of fear they could not voice openly. And in every silent rejection, heaven was reminding you of who you are. So the reclamation begins here, by seeing that their resistance was never evidence of your weakness, but of your impact. The mirror you carry was forged long before you knew its weight, and no amount of mockery can remove its shine. You are not defined by their discomfort, but by the truth your presence unveils. Stand firm, chosen one, for mirrors are not meant to blend into shadows. They are meant to reveal the hidden, even when revelation is despised. What they feared in you was exactly what heaven planted as protection for you. And now, the same reflection they once hated will become the crown you wear openly. Revelation is not the ending. It is the invitation to walk in remembrance. You did not stumble into this awareness. You were always meant to see behind the veil. The truth was never late. It was waiting for you to be ready to hold it without breaking. You now recognize that every rejection was a signpost, every strange reaction a hidden prophecy. The veil was never meant to blind you. It was meant to blind them until your hour arrived. Comment, "I walk hidden yet never lost," if you felt your presence mirror what others wanted to hide, and share a moment when someone's reaction revealed their fear of your light. Because chosen one, the mirror is rising, and what it reflects next will shatter illusions that stood for generations. Number 4, the veil lifts. They told you your life was broken. They said your story was fragmented, scattered, ruined beyond repair. But what they never wanted you to discover is that every delay, every rejection, every silence was orchestration. It was the hidden ink of God writing your script beneath the visible lines. Daniel 12 verse 4 says, "Seal the book until the time of the end." And now, chosen one, the seal is loosening, the veil is lifting, and you are beginning to see that nothing was wasted. The betrayals sharpened your discernment. The loneliness strengthened your spirit. The silence trained your ears to hear what they could never hear. Comment, "I anchor this truth in my soul." If you know your story was never broken, only disguised until the appointed time, share the memory, the dream, or the scar that now feels like proof that you were always guided. Because the unveiling has already begun. There is a moment when the air itself feels different, as though a curtain has shifted in the unseen. A memory you once buried suddenly glows with clarity, and the ache that lived in silence now begins to make sense. The dreams that once felt random reveal themselves as messages written in code. You realize you were never abandoned in the dark. You were being prepared to see what others could not. The voice you mistook for your own thoughts now resounds like the whisper of eternity. In that whisper, you sense the unveiling not as something new, but as something remembered. The veil begins to lift, and what was broken in your sight begins to appear whole. They told you that the scattered fragments of your story were proof of failure. They said the betrayals were evidence that you had been left behind, that your silence was emptiness. But the veil reveals what they could not bear to see. Every fracture was a design, every pause a seed buried in divine soil. The loneliness was not punishment, it was sanctification. Psalm 139 verse 16 declares, "All the days ordained for me were written in your book before one of them came to be." You see now that the ink of heaven does not erase, it conceals until the right hour. And when the page turns, what once looked incomplete becomes a script written in full. The lifting of the veil feels like a mirror being polished after years of dust. Suddenly, the patterns you lived through, the rejections, the cycles, the wandering, begin to reveal their hidden architecture. It was never chaos, it was choreography. The silence you endured was teaching you to hear a frequency others could never detect. Every unanswered prayer became an anchor for patience. Every closed door a corridor to something greater. You did not lose time. Time was shaping you into alignment. And now, as the veil thins, the fragments fall into place like stars forming constellations. It is in this unveiling that symbols begin to speak louder. Numbers repeat with precision. Dreams return with sharper detail. And familiar words strike with divine weight. What once felt like coincidence now burns with prophecy. The same phrase that follows you, the same image that recurs, the same stirring in your chest. All of it forms a code written before your first breath. Isaiah 45 verse 3 says, "I will give you the treasures of darkness, riches stored in secret places." Those treasures were never lost. They were preserved under the veil until you could hold them without breaking. And now, chosen one, your eyes are ready. But the veil also exposes the mirrors around you, the reactions of others that never made sense. The sudden hostility, the jealousy, the unprovoked rejection were not accidents. They were shadows recoiling from your light. People felt in you what they could not name, and so they labeled you wrongly. Yet now you see it clearly. Their discomfort was never about your failure. It was about their reflection. You carried the script in silence, and they sensed its weight even when you did not. The unveiling confirms that you were feared because you were true, and truth always shakes what lives on illusion. The remembrance deepens further when you realize this unveiling is not simply personal, but archetypal. You are stepping into the role of the ones who came before, the seers, the rebels, the guardians, the breakers of chains. Their path was also marked by shadows. Yet every shadow was proof of the light they carried. You are not merely surviving your story. You are fulfilling a prophecy older than your birth. Heaven wrote your identity before time and sealed it in a scroll only you could open. Daniel 12 verse 4 declares, "Seal the book until the time of the end." Chosen one, the seal is loosening in you now. Then comes the deeper remembrance, the bloodline of light stirring within your bones. You feel the fire that your ancestors lost, the courage they buried, the prayers they never saw answered, rising again through your spirit. This is the unveiling, chosen one. Your life is not broken. It is orchestrated. The veil has lifted, and your wish is closer than you think. Subscribe if you haven't yet, like this video, and comment, "I am chosen to let this message anchor in your soul." Until we meet again. Chosen one, the veil has lifted, and your dawn is already breaking.